There's a moment that comes late in the process, often years in, when you realize you've spent most of your life holding space for people who never intended to hold any for you. It doesn't arrive as anger, not at first. It arrives as a quiet, uncomfortable recognition, the kind that sits in your chest at 3 in the morning and refuses to move. You start noticing how often you've shaped yourself around the moods of others, how much energy you've given to managing emotions that were never yours to carry, how deeply you've believed that your value was tied to your capacity to absorb. And the worst part, the part that makes it hard to speak about, is that you were good at it. You became very, very good at it. The unhealed empath doesn't begin with cruelty. They begin with an extraordinary sensitivity, a kind of nervous system wired to detect shifts in emotional atmosphere before anyone speaks. As children, many learn to read a room not as a skill, but as a survival mechanism. To predict, to preempt, to adjust. In adulthood, this becomes identity. They are the one people come to, the one who listens without judgment, the one who feels what others feel and offers themselves as a container for it. And for a long time, this feels meaningful, feels like love. But there's a cost that accrues silently. They begin to lose track of where they end and others begin. Their moods are no longer their own. Their body becomes a receiver for everyone else's unprocessed pain, and they mistake this receptivity for connection. They believe they are helping. They believe they are needed. What they don't yet see is that they have become a participant in something unconscious. They are not connecting, they are merging. And in that merger they dissolve. Carl Jung spoke about participation mystique, a term borrowed from anthropology to describe a state where the boundaries between self and other blur entirely. In this state, you don't experience yourself as separate. You experience yourself through the emotional reality of those around you. You feel what they feel. You carry what they cannot carry. And in doing so, you lose access to your own inner life. The unhealed empath lives in this state chronically. They don't just empathize, they absorb. And they do it so automatically, so reflexively, that they no longer notice when it's happening. Someone walks into the room in a bad mood and they feel it in their body. Someone criticizes them and they spend days trying to fix the discomfort. Not theirs, but the other person's. They are endlessly available, endlessly accommodating. And beneath all of it, they are disappearing. The breaking point doesn't announce itself clearly. It's not always a betrayal or a single moment of collapse. Sometimes it's just exhaustion, a kind of depletion so deep that the usual strategies stop working. You can't fix it anymore. You can't smooth it over. You can't make yourself smaller to make someone else more comfortable. And in that space, that terrible quiet space, something shifts. You stop, not because you've decided to, not because you've read the right book or had the right realization. You stop because you have no choice. Your system refuses to continue. This is where the real work begins. What Jung called individuation is not self-improvement. It's not about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about becoming yourself, the self you've never fully inhabited because you've been too busy inhabiting everyone else. And for the empath, individuation is excruciating, because it requires them to stop doing the one thing that has always made them feel safe, merging. It requires them to pull their energy back, to stop feeling responsible for other people's inner worlds, to stop offering themselves as a solution to discomfort they didn't create. It requires them to disappoint people. And that feels at first like a kind of violence. But here's what begins to happen, slowly, almost imperceptibly. The healed empath doesn't lose their sensitivity. They don't become cold or closed off. What changes is the structure beneath the sensitivity. They develop what Jung would call differentiation, the ability to feel something without becoming it, to witness someone's pain without taking it into their body, to care without dissolving. This is not detachment. It's clarity. They begin to notice when someone is trying to hand them an emotional burden that isn't theirs. And instead of reaching for it automatically, they pause. They let it sit. They allow the other person to hold it. This pause, this tiny, almost invisible pause, is where everything changes. Boundaries don't arrive as rules. They don't need to be declared or defended. They emerge naturally as a byproduct of self-knowing. The healed empath simply stops going where they are not genuinely called. They stop explaining themselves to people who are not listening. They stop participating in dynamics that require them to abandon themselves. And they do this without hostility. There's no anger in it, no righteousness, just a quiet, firm knowing, a recognition that their energy is not infinite, that their presence is not owed. That love does not require self-erasure. They become selective, not in a cold way, not in a withholding way, but in a way that honors what is real. They give their attention, their care, their depth, but only where it is met, only where there is mutuality, only where they are seen as more than a function. And this selectivity feels to others like withdrawal. People don't know what to do with a healed empath. They were used to the open door, the endless patience, the soft, accommodating presence that never pushed back. And now, suddenly, there's a boundary they can't cross, a question that goes unanswered, a need that is no longer met. Some people feel abandoned, some feel confused, some become angry, because the healed empath has stopped playing a role they didn't know they'd cast them in. The role of the emotional caretaker, the role of the one who absorbs so others don't have to feel. And when that role is vacated, the discomfort it was masking comes to the surface. The healed empath doesn't try to fix this. They don't explain. They don't justify. They simply allow people to have their reactions. They allow relationships to reconfigure or end. They trust that anyone who truly sees them will adjust. And many don't. What remains is smaller, quieter, but it's real. The healed empath finds that their relationships become fewer but deeper. They attract people who are capable of reciprocity, people who don't need to be saved, people who can hold their own weight and meet them in the space between. They also find that they can be alone without feeling empty. That silence is no longer something to fill. That their inner world, once abandoned in favor of everyone else's, is rich, complex, alive. They begin to trust their own instincts again, their own numbers, their own quiet exits. They realize that walking away is not cruelty, that letting someone be disappointed is not betrayal, that they are allowed to protect their peace without apologizing for it. There's a kind of power in this, but it's not the power of dominance or control. It's the power of presence, of self-possession, of no longer needing to prove, perform, or placate. The healed empath stops trying to make people comfortable with their existence. They stop contorting themselves to fit into spaces that were never designed for them. They stop offering more than they have in the hope that it will be enough. They become still. And in that stillness, they become unmovable, not rigid, not closed, but grounded, anchored in something internal that no one else can touch. People feel this. They don't always understand it, but they feel it. And it makes some of them uncomfortable. Because the healed empath is no longer absorbing the discomfort they're projecting. They're letting it return to its source. This is not aggression. It's not retaliation. It's just refusal to participate in what is unconscious. Jung believed that the goal of psychological development was not to become more likable, more pleasing, or more acceptable. It was to become real, to integrate what has been split off, to own what has been denied, to stop living from the outside in. For the empath, this means reclaiming the self that was sacrificed in the name of connection. It means accepting that not everyone will like this version of you, that some people will miss who you used to be, the one who said yes, who stayed too long, who made everything easier for them. And it means grieving that loss, because it is a loss, even when it's necessary. But what you gain is something no one can take. You gain yourself, not the self you perform, not the self you offer up for approval, but the self that exists underneath all of that, the one who knows what they feel, the one who can sit with their own complexity, the one who doesn't need to be understood by everyone in order to feel whole. This is what a healed empath becomes. Not softer, not harder, just clear. Clear about what they will give, clear about what they will not, clear about who they are when no one is watching. And in that clarity, there is a kind of quiet sovereignty, a sense of inner alignment that doesn't need to announce itself. It simply is. You don't arrive at this place once and stay there. It's not a destination. It's a practice, a constant returning, a constant choice to stay with yourself even when the pull to merge is strong. But over time, the choice becomes easier. The pause becomes automatic. The boundary becomes breath. And you realize that you were never meant to carry the weight of the world. That your sensitivity was never a flaw to be corrected. It was a capacity to be protected. Not from others, but for yourself. The healed empath doesn't need to be seen to know they exist. They don't need to be chosen to know they have value. They don't need to save anyone to feel worthy. They just are. And that, quiet, unglamorous, unwitnessed, is the uncomfortable truth. That healing doesn't make you more, it makes you enough.